Morning always had a way of looking clean in a luxury boutique. The glass doors were wiped until they shined. The shelves were arranged like a museum. The air conditioning was cold enough to make you feel like you were stepping into a different world. One where money solved problems before they even became problems. Inside, the workers moved around with practiced speed. Someone adjusted handbags so their logos faced forward. Someone else wiped fingerprints off a glass counter. Two staff members argued quietly over which perfume scent should be sprayed near the entrance. The manager, Mr. Benson, walked past them with a serious face, checking every corner like a man who could smell mistakes from afar. At the center of it all stood Daisy Okafor. Daisy was 25. Her black hair was tied up neatly in a high ponytail, and it made her face look calm and open. She didn't have the loudest voice in the store, and she didn't walk with arrogance either. But when she spoke to customers, people listened. Not because she was forcing respect, because she carried herself like someone who understood human beings. That morning, she was arranging a display of necklaces, gold pieces that looked like they belonged on the neck of a queen. A bell chimed softly as the glass door opened. Everyone looked up. Two elderly people stepped in, an old man and an old woman. Their clothes looked like they had been worn too many times and washed too many times. The fabric was dull. The slippers on their feet looked tired. Even their shoulders carried that quiet heaviness that comes from living a life where nobody makes things easy for you. They stood at the entrance for a moment, he blinking like people who were not sure they were allowed to be there. And immediately the air in the boutique changed. A salesgirl named Anita Ezzi was the first to react. Anita was always sharp, always confident, always quick to judge. Her lips curved in a small smile that wasn't friendly at all. She leaned toward another staff member, Annie and murmured loud enough for others to hear. "Look at this one," Anita said with a soft laugh. "Country people again," Annie scoffed, her eyes sweeping over the couple from head to toe like she was checking spoiled goods. The old couple took one small step forward, moving carefully as if the shiny floor might punish them for touching it. The old woman opened her mouth politely. "Good morning." Anita didn't even answer the greeting. Instead, she stepped forward like she owned the air. "Excuse me," she said, her voice sweet but cutting. "This is a luxury boutique. We don't serve everybody." The old man swallowed, trying to keep his dignity. "We just want to look." Anita raised her hand as if to stop him from breathing too close. "Look," she repeated. "Do you even know what look means here? Everything here is expensive. This place is not a market." Some of the other staff members laughed under their breath. One of them pretended to arrange shoes, but his eyes were watching like this was free entertainment. Anita continued enjoying herself. "We only serve clients with assets above a certain level," she said, waving her fingers in the air like she was listing rules from heaven. "People that can actually afford what they touch." The old woman's eyes lowered to the floor. Her hands tightened around her small, a worn bag as if she was suddenly ashamed of carrying it. The old man's jaw clenched, but he still tried to speak gently. "Madam, we are not here to cause trouble." "Trouble?" Anita laughed again. "You've already caused trouble by entering." Then Annie joined in, her voice sharper. "Do you people even have money?" Annie said. "Or you just came because you heard cold air is free in here?" That one hit hard. The old woman flinched like she had been slapped. The old man looked around the boutique, his eyes meeting the eyes of strangers who were watching him like he was dirty. He opened his mouth to speak again, but Anita cut him off. "Please," she said, pointing toward the door. "Go outside. Don't waste our time. This place is not for rural people." She said it with such confidence, like it was a simple fact. Like poverty was a crime and luxury was a courtroom. The old couple turned slightly as if they might actually leave, because sometimes walking away is the only way to keep your pride from breaking in public. But before they could move, Daisy stepped forward. Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. "Good morning," Daisy said gently, smiling at the couple. Anita turned sharply. "Daisy?" Daisy didn't look at Anita. Her attention stayed on the two elderly people standing near the door, looking small in a place built for people who never had to beg. "Please come in," Daisy said again, as if she hadn't heard any of the insults. "You're welcome," the old woman blinked at her. "But Daisy smiled softly. "The floor is meant to be stepped on," she said, calm and steady. "It's not a sin to walk inside a store." There was a silence, Watch the kind that makes people uncomfortable because it exposes something ugly. Daisy walked toward a sitting area and pulled out 2 chairs neatly like she had done it 1,000 times. Please sit, she said. You don't have to stand near the door. The old couple hesitated, like they were afraid the chair might reject them too. But Daisy's eyes were kind. Not pitying, not fake, just kind. Slowly they sat down. Daisy turned slightly and picked up a necklace from the display. The stones on it caught the light and sparkled like they were laughing. Would you like to try this one? Daisy asked the old woman. The old woman's hands trembled a little as she lifted her chin. Me? Yes, Mom, Daisy said, already moving behind her carefully. Let me help you. She placed the necklace gently around the woman's neck and fastened it like it was precious. Not because the necklace was expensive, but because the person wearing it was still a human being. The old woman looked into the mirror. For a second, her face softened, like she was seeing a version of herself she had forgotten existed. Anita scoffed loudly. Ah! Daisy ignored her. She brought out a pair of shoes for the old woman to try, then another one. She showed the old man a wristwatch, then a belt, then a simple pair of polished shoes. Feel free to try anything you like, Daisy said, still warm. You don't have to buy it just because you tried it on. The old man stared at her as if she was speaking a language he had not heard in years. Daisy continued, carefully choosing her words. It's okay to enjoy beautiful things, she said. Sometimes you can try them just for the joy of it. Don't feel forced. No pressure. The old woman looked at Daisy's face like she was trying to understand if this kindness was real. Then she glanced around at the boutique again. The glass, the lights, the expensive smell in the air, and she looked back at Daisy. The old couple didn't speak much after that, but their eyes said everything. They were shocked, not because of the necklace, not because of the shoes, but because for the first time that morning, someone had looked at them and seen people, not poverty. And Daisy Ophir, without knowing it, had just stepped into a story that would change her life completely. The old woman was still looking at herself in the mirror when Daisy gently adjusted at the necklace at her neck. It suits you, Daisy said softly. Ooh, it brings out your face. The old woman's lips parted like she didn't know whether to smile or not. The old man cleared his throat and looked around the boutique again, still cautious, still quiet, but no longer shrinking into himself. After a few more minutes, the old couple had picked a small stack of items, a necklace, a pair of shoes, a simple wristwatch, 2 clothing pieces folded neatly on the counter. Daisy arranged everything with care, as if she was wrapping something precious. Then the old man spoke in a calm voice. Young lady, he said, how much is everything we tried altogether? Daisy opened her mouth to answer, but Anita Eyre had been waiting for that moment, like a hungry person waiting for food. She stepped forward quickly, snatched the calculator, and started pressing buttons with sharp, dramatic taps. Her eyes flashed with excitement, the kind that comes when somebody thinks they're about to embarrass another person. She didn't even look at Daisy. She looked straight at the old couple. Let me calculate it for you, Anita said loudly. The boutique had gone unusually quiet. Even the staff pretending to work had paused, watching. Anita lifted her chin like a queen delivering judgment. The total is 680,000, she announced. Then she smiled. Not a friendly smile, a cruel one. If you can't afford it, she continued, just say so. Don't stand there forming confidence. The old woman's shoulders stiffened. The old man's eyes narrowed slightly, but he didn't shout. He didn't insult her back. He simply looked at her steady and calm, like a man who had seen worse things than rude words. Then he said quietly, but clearly, Yar, it's not expensive. Anita blinked. The old man added almost casually, it's cheap. For a second, nobody understood what they had heard. One staff member made a small sound, like a cough that wasn't cough. Anium's mouth fell open. Anita's face changed, as if someone had poured cold water on her head. Daisy stood still, watching the couple, her hands folded politely in front of her. The old woman turned to Daisy. Help us package gifts worth $2 million, she said. Daisy's eyes widened slightly, but her face stayed calm. She didn't scream. She didn't jump. She just nodded the way a true professional would. Yes, Ma, Daisy said. I can do that. Anita let out a short laugh. Too quick, too fake, 2 million, she scoffed. Have you ever even seen that kind of money in your life? The old man didn't answer her. Instead, he reached into his worn clothes and brought out something small and smooth. A bank card, plain looking, nothing flashy. But the way he held it, there was no hesitation in his fingers. He placed it on the counter. Daisy picked it up carefully and passed it to the cashier to process. The POS machine beeped once, then twice. For a moment, Anita's eyes shone with hope. She was waiting for the embarrassing part, waiting for declined, but the POS machine made another sound. Approved. The cashier froze. Then she looked up slowly and said almost in disbelief, "Payment successful." The boutique went silent in the strangest way. It was like everybody's breath had been stolen. Annie's lips trembled. One staff member's eyes darted away in shame. And Anita's face hardened. Her pride didn't let her look shocked, but her eyes betrayed her. She looked like someone who had just been slapped without warning. Daisy didn't gloat. She didn't look at Anita. She focused on the job. She began to package the items neatly, each gift wrapped clean, each box placed carefully in a branded bag. She moved with patience, making sure the old couple got the kind of service that rich people enjoyed every day without thinking. When she was done, she handed the bags to the old woman with both hands. "Auntie," Daisy said, "if you're not satisfied within 7 days, you can return anything. No questions asked." The old woman stared at her. "You're very kind," she said, and her voice sounded full, like she was holding back something. Daisy smiled politely. "It's my job, Ma." "No," the old woman insisted. "This is more than job." She held the bags closer, then leaned in a little, her eyes shining with affection. "Are you seeing anyone?" she asked. Daisy blinked. "Ma." The old woman smiled wider now, like a woman who had already decided something in her heart. "My nephew is 30, she said. "Very handsome. Still single." Daisy's cheeks warmed slightly, not from pride, more from discomfort. "Ma," Daisy said gently, "your family is too well off for someone like me." The old woman waved her hand like Daisy was saying nonsense. "Too well off for you," she repeated. "Who told you that?" Daisy tried to smile, but it came out small. "It's just how life is." The old woman didn't argue too much. Instead, she did something that shocked Daisy even more. She brought out her phone. "Let's exchange contact," she said simply. Daisy hesitated for only a second. Then she obeyed because refusing would be rude. They exchanged numbers. The old woman squeezed Daisy's hand softly. "From today," she said, "no matter what, I will only buy from you." Daisy's throat tightened slightly. "Thank you, Mom." The old man stood up and adjusted his worn shirt. He looked at Daisy with quiet respect. Daisy walked them toward the entrance, holding the bags carefully like she was escorting important guests. Anita watched from behind with eyes that could cut. At the door, Daisy opened it for them. "Please come again," Daisy said. The old woman nodded. "We will." And as the couple stepped out into the morning light, Daisy stood there for a moment, watching them go, still unaware of what she had just done. She had not just made a sale. She had passed a test without knowing she was being tested. The scene shifted, not to noise, not to gossip, to silence. A different kind of silence. Yes, one that lived in expensive air, in important decisions. Inside a wide, tastefully furnished executive office, Ethan Adami sat behind a large desk. Ethan was in his late 30s, tall, calm, and deliberately controlled. He had the kind of handsome face people talked about in low voices, clean jaw, steady eyes, and a look that made it hard to tell what he was thinking. His suit was dark and perfectly fitted, not because he wanted to impress anyone, but because he was used to being taken seriously. He was the CEO of Apex Lux Group, the biggest luxury brand group in the country. The kind of company that could make or break businesses with one decision. And in town, people loved to say one thing about him. He was the most eligible bachelor, not because he was just rich, but because he was disciplined, private, and almost impossible to access. Yet women wanted him, men respected him, people feared disappointing him. In front of his desk stood the same poor old couple from the boutique. Only now they were not pretending. The old woman's shoulders were straight, her face was firm, her eyes carried authority. This was Mrs. Clara Ara Adami, and the old man beside her was Mr. Gabriel Addy, Ethan's father. They had not gone to the boutique because they wanted to shop like beggars. They had gone because they were tired. Tired of seeing people pretend, tired of women chasing their son because of money, tired of hearing fake laughter and fake humility. They wanted to see something real with their own eyes. So they had dressed down, worn torn old clothes, and walked into one of their own branches like strangers, just to see who would treat them like human beings. Mrs. Clara sat down across from Ethan, her face calm but satisfied. She was kind, Mrs. Clara said. Not the kind that is acting, the kind that is natural. Mr. Gabriel nodded slowly. She spoke to us with respect, even when others were insulting us. Ethan listened without interrupting. His face didn't change much, but his eyes stayed attentive. She didn't rush us, Mrs. Clara continued. She let me try things without pressure. She even told us not to buy if we didn't want to. Ethan leaned back slightly, thoughtful. Before he could speak, the office door opened. His assistant Felix stepped in. Felix was a neat, sharp-looking man who always spoke like someone who had been trained to avoid mistakes. Sir, Felix said respectfully, holding a file. I have the report you asked for. Ethan's eyes flicked to the file. Go on, Felix opened it. Anna, that salesgirl, Daisy Okafor, Felix began carefully. Some staff say she's a gold digger. They claim she's snobbish, flatters rich men, and sleeps around to sell items. The room went still. Mrs. Clara's face changed instantly. No, she said sharply. Mr. Gabriel's voice followed, calm but firm. That is not the girl we met. Mrs. Clara leaned forward, her eyes fixed on Ethan. People can lie for many reasons, she said. Jealousy is one of the easiest. Ethan didn't speak immediately, but something shifted in his expression. Small, almost invisible. He looked down at the report again. Then he looked up, and in that quiet moment, a decision began to form in his mind. If Daisy Ofer was truly as kind as his parents claimed, then he needed to know. Not through gossip, not through staff rumors, but with his own eyes. And that was how the real test was about to begin. Ethan stayed in his office long after his parents left. The report Felix had dropped on the table was still open, but Ethan wasn't reading it anymore. He was staring through it like his mind had moved somewhere else. His parents' words kept replaying. She was kind, not fake, natural. Ethan wanted to believe them. He truly did. But life had taught him that the people who smiled the sweetest could hide the sharpest knives. He had learned it the hard way more than once. Women who looked innocent until money entered the conversation. Women who acted gentle until commitment appeared. Women who knew exactly what to say to make a man feel chosen, only to later make him feel used. And there was something else too, something his parents didn't know. Ethan had noticed Daisy before, not the way people noticed a salesgirl in a boutique. He had noticed her the way a man notices the one person in a noisy room who isn't trying to be seen. A calm face, a steady voice, a kind strength that didn't beg for attention. And that day, hearing his parents describe her with such certainty, his chest tightened in a way he didn't like. Because if Daisy was truly that rare, then he was already late. And if she wasn't, then he would rather find out now than make another mistake with his life. He closed the report slowly. Felix, he said. Yes, sir. Ethan's eyes lifted. Tomorrow I'm going to that branch myself. Felix hesitated, surprised. Sir, you mean physically? Ethan gave a small nod. I want to see her with my own eyes. The next morning, the boutique was alive with the usual routine. But the moment a black luxury car slowed near the entrance and a tall man stepped out in a dark suit, everything changed. It was like the air froze. The security man at the door straightened so fast it looked painful. Inside, one staff member gasped. Another one's hand slipped on the glass shelf she was wiping. Is that? No way. That's him. He's even more handsome in a real life. Why is he here? People began to move like ants whose nest had been disturbed. The manager, Mr. Benson, nearly ran out of his office. Anita and Annie quickly adjusted their hair, their collars, their smiles, everything. Someone whispered, "This is his first time coming here in the person." Another whispered, "Apex Lux CEO Ethan Adami." Daisy was at the far end of the boutique arranging a display with steady hands. She heard the sudden panic, the sudden excitement, but she didn't rush forward like the others. Not because she was proud, because she was tired. Tired of rich men being treated like gods. Tired of women pretending that money was love. She simply continued what she was doing, until a shadow fell across the floor beside her. Daisy looked up, and her world shifted. Ethan Adme stood there, tall, clean, controlled, expensive in a quiet way. For 1 second, Daisy forgot how to breathe because she knew that face. Not from magazines, not from gossip. From a night she had tried to bury so deep inside herself that even her own memory felt like a lie. Their eyes held, not like strangers, like two people whose past had touched skin before words. Ethan's expression didn't change much, but his eyes did. They carried recognition and something else, something sharp under the calm. Daisy's stomach tightened. She lowered her gaze quickly, forcing her voice to stay steady. "Good morning, sir." Ethan didn't answer immediately. Behind them, the manager was almost tripping over himself. "Sir Ethan, welcome, sir. We are honored. Please, please, let me assign our best." Ethan cut him off calmly. "Daisy will assist me." Silence. Anita's face twitched. Mr. Benson froze for half a second, then recovered quickly, forcing a smile. "Yes, sir. Of course, Daisy. Come." Daisy's fingers curled slightly, but she kept her face calm. "Yes, sir," she said quietly. Ethan walked toward the display area like a normal customer, as if he wasn't the kind of man who could buy the whole store if he wanted. Then he turned to Daisy and said in a low voice that only she could hear, "Treat me like a normal customer." Daisy swallowed. "Yes, sir." So he picked up a jacket casually, then placed it back. "You work hard," he said. "How old are you?" Daisy stiffened slightly. That wasn't a normal question. 25, she answered. "And your family?" Daisy's throat tightened. She didn't like that question. It always had teeth. "My family is fine," she said carefully. Ethan's lips curved slightly, but there was no humor in it. "What's your real name?" he asked. Daisy's eyes flickered. "Daisy," she said. Ethan's gaze held hers. "Where are you from?" Daisy's palms became damp. "It's not important, sir." "Too ugly to say?" Ethan asked, his tone almost teasing. Daisy's face went hot. She hated herself for reacting. She forced her voice to stay cold. "Sir, what would you like to buy?" Ethan leaned slightly closer, just enough to make her uncomfortable. "You were quick," he said softly. That night, Daisy's heart slammed against her ribs. Her eyes widened, then narrowed quickly, warning him without words. Ethan didn't raise his voice. He didn't make a scene. He simply looked like a man enjoying the control of a secret. Daisy's voice came out low and tight. "Sir, please." Ethan's eyes dropped briefly, then lifted again. "I want to try pants," he said plainly. "Bring me another pair to the fitting room." Daisy turned immediately, moving like she did hear the hidden meaning. "Yes, sir." She brought the pants, handed them to him, and stood outside the fitting room door like her job demanded. A few moments later, Ethan's voice came from inside. "Daisy?" "Yes, sir." "I'll buy 100,000 worth of items from you," he said, calm as ever. "If you sleep with me again." Daisy froze. For 1 full second, she couldn't believe the words. Then anger rose in her like fire. She opened the fitting room door just enough to speak without making a scene, her eyes burning. "Sir," she said sharply, "don't insult me." Ethan's voice stayed smooth. "It's an offer." Daisy's jaw clenched. "I may need money," she whispered, eyes hard. "But I sell products, not myself." There was a pause. Then Ethan opened the door slightly. He was fully dressed, calm, almost unreadable. "So you're saying no?" "Yes," Daisy said firmly. "And if you don't want to buy anything, that's fine." Ethan studied her face like he was weighing something deeper than pride. Daisy turned away quickly before he could see what was shaking inside her. As she walked toward the counter, she muttered under her breath, so low nobody else could hear, "Billionaire men are trash." Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the items on the counter. She forced herself to breathe, forced herself to focus on work. But when Ethan returned to the counter, his voice softened just a little. "That night was an accident," Daisy said quickly before he could speak again. Her eyes didn't meet his. "Please keep it a secret for me." Ethan's gaze didn't move. Is it embarrassing? He asked quietly. To have slept with me? Daisy's chest tightened. It's embarrassing to be reduced to it, she said, voice low. That's all. Ethan didn't respond immediately. Then he picked up a bag from the shelf. I'm here to buy something for my sister, he announced loud enough for others to hear. The staff practically melted with relief. Yes, sir. Welcome, sir. They laughed too loudly, smiled too widely. Each treated him like the sun had walked inside their shop. And from that day, Ethan kept coming back, always with a new excuse. My sister needs a bag. My sister has an event. My sister likes this brand. Each time he requested Daisy, each time the staff gossiped, that CEO is a playboy. See the kind of women he brings. He keeps changing girls. One day, Daisy finally got tired and said quietly, Sir, you have so many sisters. Ethan's mouth twitched, almost amused. I have 3, he admitted under his breath. That's why this excuse works. Daisy didn't know whether to be angry or annoyed, but she knew one thing. People were watching, especially Anita. Anita noticed the pattern too quickly. She noticed how Ethan's eyes followed Daisy even when he pretended not to. She noticed how he always chose Daisy, but even when Anita stood right in front of him with her best smile. Anita's jealousy grew teeth. At first, she only whispered. Then she began to plant words. Daisy targets rich men. She acts innocent, but she knows what she's doing. She sleeps around to sell. She's using the boss. Slowly, like poison mixed into soup, the story began to spread. And Daisy could feel it. The looks, the whispers, the laughter that stopped when she turned around. Still, she kept working because hunger doesn't care about gossip. Bills don't pause for rumors. But one morning, as Daisy was arranging clothes on a rack, a sudden wave of nausea hit her like a slap. She froze, her face drained. She gripped the rack tightly, trying to steady herself. The nausea rose again, stronger. Daisy covered her mouth and rushed toward the restroom. She barely made it inside before she bent over the toilet and vomited. Her body shook. Her eyes watered. When she finally lifted her head, she stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her lips were pale. Her breathing was uneven, and fear crawled into her chest, cold and heavy. Because Daisy knew her body, she knew what this could mean. Her hand trembled as it moved slowly to her belly, not touching, just hovering, like she was afraid to confirm what her mind was already screaming. No, she whispered, not like a prayer, like a warning. No, please. She stared at her reflection like the mirror was about to answer her. Her mouth tasted bitter. Her throat burned. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to grip the sink to keep herself steady. She rinsed her mouth, forced herself to stand straight, and walked out of the restroom like nothing happened. But inside her, everything was spinning. She tried to work. She tried to smile. She tried to pretend. Yet the nausea came again, soft this time, like a warning, and fear finally pushed her into action. That same day after work, Daisy stopped at a pharmacy on her way home. She kept her head down as she spoke, as if the walls could hear her shame. Good evening. Please, I need a test strip. The pharmacist looked at her for only a second too long, like he already had assumptions, then handed it over. Daisy paid quickly and left. At home, she didn't even greet properly. She went straight to the small shared bathroom, locked the door, and leaned against it as if her legs could no longer carry her. Her fingers trembled as she opened the pack. Please be negative, please. She took the test. Then she waited. Those seconds stretched like punishment. Her eyes didn't blink. Her breath came shallow. Her heart pounded so loud she felt it in her ears. And then 2 lines appeared, clear, unarguable. Daisy's knees gave way. She slid down to the floor, pressing her palm over her mouth to stop a sound from escaping. Tears filled her eyes, not gentle tears. Hot tears that came from shock, regret, and helplessness. No, she whispered again, but this time it sounded like mourning. No, no, no. Because she already knew what this meant. She was pregnant and she was alone. 6 weeks earlier, before Apex Lux became a daily name on everybody's lips inside that boutique, before Ethan Adam began showing up with sister excuses, before people started watching Daisy like she was a snake pretending to be a dove, Daisy had been surviving the way many people survived, quietly, desperately, and without any help. She had a part-time job at a luxury bar. It wasn't the kind of place she was proud of, but it paid, and Daisy needed money. That night, the bar was loud and polished, filled with perfume, laughter, and men who spoke like money was a language they owned. Daisy wore a simple uniform, black skirt, white shirt, hair tied back. She moved between tables with a tray in her hand, serving drinks and forcing polite smiles. Then she saw him, a man sitting alone with a glass in his hand, his shoulders heavy, like he was carrying something inside his chest. Handsome. Not flashy handsome. The kind of handsome that doesn't need to try. His shirt sleeves were rolled up. His tie was loose. His eyes looked tired. And he looked like someone who had drunk too much, but was still holding himself together out of pure discipline. Daisy only knew one thing about him that night. He was a man she had never seen before. A ritual-looking man, yes, but Daisy didn't know he was Ethan Adai. She didn't know he was the CEO of Apex Lux. She didn't know he was a billionaire. To her, he was simply a handsome, drunk man who looked lonely. When she served him, their eyes met for a moment, and something passed between them, something dangerous and quiet. Ethan's voice came low. "Do you ever get tired?" he asked. Daisy hesitated. Customers didn't ask her that kind of question, but something about his face made her answer honestly. "Every day," she said. He gave a small laugh that didn't carry joy. They talked, not long talk, not deep talk, but enough. And enough for Daisy to feel like she was seeing a man behind the money, a man behind the power, a man who looked like he didn't trust the world anymore. And Daisy was young, lonely, and human. She had been hungry for gentleness for too long. So when he offered to take her away from the noise for just one night, Daisy made a decision she never thought she would make. She gave him her first night, not for money, not for promotion, not for a connection, but because she was attracted to him and she was tired of being strong every day. That night happened quietly. No cameras, no witness, no promises, just two strangers whose loneliness found each other in a dangerous way. And before Ethan even woke up the next morning, Daisy was already gone. She left the room silently, her shoes in her hand, her heart pounding. She didn't take money, because she didn't leave a note. She only left with one thought: this must never follow me. The next day, Ethan woke up sober and angry at himself. He remembered enough to know what could happen to her reputation if anyone ever found out, especially because she was small in society and he was powerful. Men like him could recover from scandals. Women like Daisy got destroyed by them. When he found her later, when he made a quiet effort to speak to her again, Daisy's face was tight with shame and fear. "It was a mistake," she told him immediately, her voice trembling but firm. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. "I didn't plan." "Please," Daisy cut in. "Don't ever bring it up." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Daisy, don't let anybody know," she said, almost pleading now. "Please." Ethan saw it then. Not pride, fear, and the kind that came from knowing how the world treated girls like her. He nodded slowly. "All right," he said. "I won't." Daisy held his gaze as if she was sealing in a painful agreement. And that day she vowed to herself, no matter what happens, she would take care of herself. And if the worst happened, she would take care of her baby alone because she knew how people already talked. Luxury sales girls, luxury bar girls. They would say she slept for money. They would reduce her entire life to one night. She refused, even if her heart broke. Back in the present, Daisy sat on her bed that night, staring at the test strip like it was evidence of a crime. Her hands rested on her lap. Her eyes were empty. Her mind was loud. "I'm pregnant." She looked around her small room and her portion of the crowded apartment she shared with her mother and sister. The walls were thin, the air was heavy, and her problems were about to become everybody's business, whether she wanted it or not. Daisy pressed a hand to her belly, this time touching it. A silent tear rolled down her cheek. "What do I do now?" she whispered. The next day at work, Ethan found her again. He watched her from a distance first, like he was studying her mood. Then he walked up calmly as if he was only a customer. "Are you free tonight?" Ethan asked. Daisy's heart skipped. "Dinner with him?" Her mind went straight to the pregnancy. She swallowed hard. Yes, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to take you out for dinner, Ethan said. Just dinner. Daisy forced a small nod. Okay, sir. As Ethan walked away, Daisy stood there frozen. A part of her wanted to tell him immediately, maybe he will care. Maybe he will do the right thing. But another part of her screamed, what if he thinks you planned it? What if he thinks you're trying to trap him? She didn't know. She didn't know. And while Daisy was still battling her own thoughts, Anita was planning. Anita had been waiting for the perfect moment. Now Daisy was weak. Now Ethan was visiting often. Now the store was full of gossip. So Anita did what jealous people did best. She created proof. Fake chats, screenshots, messages that looked real, messages that said things like 100,000 for a full night. Come to the hotel. My wife can't satisfy me like you can. Anita spread it quietly first, then loudly. She sent it to staff group chats. She sent it to people outside. She even let it accidentally reach the wrong eyes. And soon Ethan's internal investigation team heard the rumor. They believed it, because rumors fit the stereotype people already wanted to believe. And once people decide who you are, they don't need evidence. They only need confirmation. Ethan's team began preparing a confrontation. That same morning, Mrs. Clara Adme heard the rumor too, and it made her angry. Not just because it involved Daisy, because it was too familiar. The way society punished women quickly and forgave men easily. Mrs. Clara called Ethan immediately. My son, she said sharply, I'm hearing nonsense. Ethan's voice came calm. What nonsense, Mom? They're saying the girl is a gold digger, Mrs. Clara said, that she sleeps around. Ethan didn't answer immediately. Mrs. Clara's voice rose. That is not the girl your father and I met, she said firmly. Do you hear me? That is not her. Ethan's silence on the line was heavy. Mrs. Clara softened slightly. Ethan, she said, don't let people's jealousy lead you. That afternoon, everything exploded. The boutique doors burst open and a woman stormed in like fire. Her hair was perfect. Her clothes were expensive. Her face was twisted with rage. This was Gloria Oiki. And right behind her was a man who looked nervous, sweating, and embarrassed. James Oiki, her husband. Gloria didn't come quietly. She came to destroy. Where is she? Gloria shouted. Where is Daisy Okafor? Heads turned. Phones started coming out. Customers froze mid-step. Even staff members who had been gossiping quietly now looked excited. Drama had arrived. Daisy looked up from the counter, confused. Then Gloria spotted her and marched forward up like a hunter. So it's you, Gloria hissed. Daisy's brows pulled together. Madam, I don't know you. Gloria laughed coldly. Oh, you don't know me. She turned sharply and grabbed James by the arm. Tell her who I am. James avoided Daisy's eyes. His voice came low. She's my wife. Gloria shoved her phone toward Daisy's face. You seduced my husband, she shouted. You shameless thing. You are sleeping with married men to sell your rubbish products. People gasped. Some staff members murmured like they were watching a movie. Anita stepped forward dramatically, pretending shock. What, Daisy? Gloria tapped her phone wildly. And don't pretend, Gloria yelled. I have proof. She held the phone up so others could see. Fake chat messages. Messages from Daisy. The crowd drew closer. Anna Hume covered her mouth theatrically. A customer shook her head and muttered, I always knew these luxury girls. Daisy's chest tightened. Her hands began to tremble. This is not me, Daisy said quickly. I didn't send that. Gloria laughed louder. You didn't? Gloria snapped. So who did ghost? Daisy forced herself to breathe. Madam, she said, voice shaking but trying to be logical. Check the time on that message. It says it was sent at 2 p.m., the day before yesterday. Gloria paused slightly, still angry. Izzy continued fast because she could feel the crowd turning against her. At 2 p.m. that day, I was closing a deal. I was in the store. I was working. I didn't have time to message anybody like that. The crowd murmured. Daisy swallowed. Someone must have used my phone, she said. That's the only explanation. Gloria scoffed. Lies, she turned to the crowd. Yes, look at her acting innocent, more voices joined. Disgusting, shameless girl. She's one of those. Then, like life was determined to crush Daisy completely, her home life entered the boutique. The doors opened again, and two women stormed in. One older, hard-faced, loud, angry. One younger, sharp-tongued, jealous, dramatic. Daisy's heart dropped to her stomach because she knew that face. Her mother and her sister. They lived in the same house. They had noticed things. Daisy vomiting, Daisy pale, Daisy skipping meals, Daisy waking up at night to breathe through fear. They had pressed her. They had watched. And when Daisy tried to hide, they searched through her things. They found the test strip. That was how they knew. Daisy's mother pointed at her like she wanted to tear her apart. Everybody look at her. Her mother screamed, "Count a man got her pregnant, and we must collect money today." Daisy's mouth fell open. "Mama, please." But her sister jumped in quickly. "If we don't get money today," her sister shouted, "we will abort it. Do you hear? We will abort it." The boutique erupted. Gloria's eyes widened like she had found a new weapon. "You see," Gloria screamed, "so you are pregnant and you still want to deny?" She grabbed Daisy's arm. "Cheap girl," Gloria spat. "You seduced my husband and now you're pregnant." Daisy tried to pull back, but hands began to touch her. Too many hands, too many voices. Anita shouted, "Hold her! She's trying to run!" Someone grabbed Daisy's shoulder. Another person grabbed her wrist. Daisy panicked. "Please," she cried. "Please let go of me." Her mother pushed forward, screaming again. "James Oike, you will pay today," James stammered. "Madam," I swear nothing happened. But nobody listened. The crowd loved the story too much. Daisy's chest heaved as tears spilled down her cheeks. "I didn't send those messages," she cried. "I didn't." Gloria raised her hand like she wanted to slap her. "You will pay today," Gloria screamed. Daisy tried to protect herself, but the pressure increased. Somebody shoved her. Somebody held her down. Daisy struggled, her body shaking as fear and pain mixed together. "Please," she cried again, voice breaking. "I'm begging you. There's a baby." But the louder she begged, the more they shouted over her. And right there, in the middle of that luxury boutique, Daisy A4 realized something painful. In a world that already decided who you are, your tears don't count as evidence, and her nightmare had only just begun. Daisy's body shook as hands still held her down. Gloria's voice was loud, ugly, full of rage. Her mother was still shouting. Her sister was still threatening abortion like it was a joke. And the crowd, people Daisy had never met, kept pressing in like hungry animals enjoying the show. Daisy's tears fell without permission. Her cheeks were hot. Her throat felt like it was closing. Then she felt it. A sharp pull at her arm. Another shove. And suddenly the fear in her chest became something else. A deeper fear. Not for herself. For the small life inside her. Daisy gasped and instinctively wrapped both hands over her stomach, trying to protect it, even as her body trembled. "Please," she cried. "Please don't. You can hurt my baby." But nobody cared. Gloria leaned closer, her eyes wild. "You want to trap my husband with pregnancy?" she spat. Today you'll learn your lesson." Daisy's mother screamed again. "Where is the man? We need money now." Her sister added, "If we don't collect today, we will remove it." Daisy closed her eyes, shaking her head again and again. "They will hurt my baby. They will hurt my baby." And in that moment, Daisy realized something painful. She didn't have time to protect her reputation anymore. She had to protect her child. So she opened her mouth and said the only truth that could stop them. "The baby," her voice cracked. "The baby is Ethan Adme's." Silence hit the boutique like a slap. Then laughter. It started small like a cruel cough, then spread like wildfire. People laughed as if Daisy had told the funniest joke of the year. Anita laughed the loudest. Gloria laughed with her whole chest. Even some staff members laughed. "Ethan Adame." "Ah," someone shouted. "The CEO." "Ah, so now you're aiming higher." Another mocked as if a billionaire would touch you. "A billionaire cannot scoop so low." "Look at this girl. She wants to use big name to cover her shame." Daisy's eyes filled again, but she didn't lower her head. She was tired of begging, tired of explaining, tired of being treated like dirt. Her voice came out shaking but firm. "I'm not lying." Gloria stepped forward, smiling like she had won. "Okay," she said loudly. "If you're not lying, call him." Anita folded her arms. Yes, call him now. Let's see, someone else shouted. Call him! Call him! The crowd became excited again, hungry for another round. Gloria lifted her chin like a queen. And if it's true, she said, waving her hand dramatically, I will kneel down and apologize. Her mother scoffed and added, I will kneel too. Her sister laughed. We will all kneel, but we know you are lying. They all laughed again, sure of themselves, because in their minds, Daisy was too small for that kind of man. Daisy's fingers shook as she reached into her bag and brought out her phone. Her throat was tight. Her whole body was weak. But she dialed. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3 rings. Her heart nearly jumped out of her chest. Then his voice came through calm and clear. Daisy, just hearing her name from him, made something break inside her. Ethan, she whispered, voice cracking. Please, please come. They want to hurt me. They want to hurt my baby. There was a pause, just 1 second, but Daisy felt it like 1 whole year. Then Ethan's voice changed. It became cold. Not cold toward Daisy, cold toward danger. Where are you? He asked sharply. At the boutique. Ouch, Daisy cried. Eureka Branch. I'm coming, Ethan said. Don't move. The call ended. Daisy's chest heaved. She looked up at the crowd, her eyes swollen with tears. I called him. Gloria laughed harder. Okay, she shouted. Let's wait. Let's see if he will come for you. Anita leaned closer to Daisy's face and whispered with poison in her voice. When nobody comes, you'll be finished. Daisy didn't answer. She just held her stomach and prayed silently. Minutes later, the boutique doors flew open again. This time it wasn't a woman storming in. It was power. A group of men in black stepped in first. Security. Then Ethan Adami walked in behind them. He didn't rush like a confused man. He walked like a man who owned the air in that room. His suit was perfect. His face was hard. His eyes were dark. And the moment he saw Daisy on the floor, saw her held down crying, his jaw tightened so sharply it looked like it could crack. Stop. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through everything. Every hand froze. Every mouth closed. Even Gloria's breath caught. Ethan took 1 step forward and his security men moved immediately, pulling people back and creating space like a wall. Daisy sat up slowly, shaking, still holding her belly. Ethan's eyes flicked to her stomach for half a second, then back to her face. Are you hurt? He asked her quietly. Daisy couldn't even speak. She only shook her head quickly and cried harder. Ethan straightened. His eyes swept across the room, and suddenly people started moving back like crabs. Gloria's confidence melted in 1 second. Her face turned pale. She started stepping away. I didn't know. Ethan's gaze landed on her like a hammer. Gloria turned and ran. You not walking? Running. Even James O'Kay stumbled after her, desperate to disappear. Some staff members tried to hide behind counters. Some customers pretended they were just passing. People who had been shouting a minute ago now became quiet like church mice. Ethan didn't chase anybody. He didn't argue. He didn't explain. He didn't owe them his private life. Instead, he turned his head slightly. Manager, he called. Mr. Benson nearly collapsed as he forced himself forward. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ethan's face was calm, but his calmness was frightening. What is going on here? He asked. The manager stammered. Sir, it's a misunderstanding. A customer. Ethan cut him off. Bring the surveillance. The manager swallowed hard, sweat shining on his forehead. Sir, the surveillance. It's gone. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. Gone, he repeated, and the manager nodded quickly. It was deleted. We don't know how. Ethan looked around slowly at the employees. His voice rose just a little, firm and deadly. Listen carefully. I will give you 1 month. The store became so quiet Daisy could hear her own breathing. 1 month, Ethan repeated, to find the person who deleted the surveillance and created this mess. Nobody breathed. If you fail, Ethan said, everyone here will lose their job. A few people gasped softly. Ethan didn't blink. Under my group, he continued, no employee will suffer injustice. Do you understand? Yes, sir, they all replied quickly, even those who had bullied Daisy, even those who had laughed. They all answered, yes, sir. Now, because Suddenly, the story wasn't fun anymore. It had consequences. Daisy's mother, however, had not learned anything. She stepped forward boldly, seeing Ethan, and her eyes glittered, not with relief, but with calculation. "Oh!" she cried loudly. "My son-in-law!" Daisy's stomach dropped. Her mother smiled wide like she was proud of her own shamelessness. "I am your mother-in-law," she declared. Ethan turned slowly. His eyes landed on her. His expression didn't change, but the room felt colder. "You are her mother?" he asked. "Yes," she said quickly. "Yes, I raised her." Ethan looked at Daisy's face, her tears, her shaking hands, her bruised arm. Then he looked back at the woman. "And you watched her get beaten," Ethan said calmly, "and the only thing on your mind was money." Her mother's smile faltered. Ethan's voice sharpened. "What kind of mother does that?" The woman's face tightened, but before she could shout again, Ethan lifted his hand slightly. "Guards," he said. Two security men moved immediately. Daisy's mother began to panic. "Ah, wait." Her sister tried to jump in. "Sir, we are family." Ethan's eyes didn't even soften. "Remove them," he said, "and make sure they understand what punishment means." The guards dragged them back. The mother screamed. The sister shouted. But this time, no crowd joined them, because nobody wanted to stand against Ethan, as Daisy's eyes followed them as they were taken away. She didn't feel happy. She didn't feel victorious. She only felt tired and empty. As Ethan stood there, Felix rushed in with a tablet in his hand, breathing fast like he had been running. "Sir," Felix said, voice urgent, "the report you asked for? The one about the designer?" Ethan's eyes turned. "What about it?" Felix swallowed. "Sir, we found her." Ethan's face tightened with focus. "Where is she?" Felix looked at Daisy, then back at Ethan. It's her." The room blinked. Even Daisy blinked like she didn't understand. Ethan's brows pulled together. "What?" Felix opened the file quickly and showed Ethan images, sketches, designs, competition documents, old records. "Sir, the genius designer you've been searching for," Felix said, almost stunned himself. "Is Daisy Okafor?" Ethan stared at the screen. Then he stared at Daisy like his mind was trying to connect two different stories into one truth. Daisy's lips parted slightly. "What? What are you talking about?" she whispered. Ethan's voice came low, almost reverent. "I've admired this work for years," he said, holding the tablet like something precious. "I saw your designs in a competition archive." He looked at her face, eyes intense. "And they were forged from pain," Ethan said slowly but full of life. Daisy's chest tightened. Tears rose again, but this time they weren't from shame. They were from a wound she had tried to forget. "My mother," Daisy's voice broke. "My mother stole my school fees." Her eyes dropped. "I placed first," she said softly. "I got the highest score. I was supposed to go to art school." Her throat tightened as she continued. "But she took the money," Daisy whispered. She said, "Dreams are for rich people." Ethan's jaw clenched. For the first time since he arrived, anger flashed. Real anger. Not at Daisy, at what had been done to her. He stepped closer. "Daisy," Ethan said firmly, "your dream is not dead." Daisy looked up, confused and scared. Ethan's voice became steady. "Sure. My company will support you," he said. "Kate, we will help you achieve your dream." Daisy's lips trembled. She opened her mouth, her voice barely holding. "Ethan, about the baby?" But the room tilted. The stress, the fear, the hunger she had been hiding, the long days of standing, the tears, the chaos. Everything finally caught up. Daisy's eyes rolled slightly. Her body swayed. Ethan's face changed in a flash. "Daisy." She tried to speak again, but her knees buckled and the world went black. One moment she was standing there trying to hold herself together in front of Ethan and the staff, and the next moment her body gave up. Her knees folded, her head swam, and she collapsed. People screamed. Some stepped back in shock, but Ethan did not step back. He moved fast, catching her before her head hit the floor. "Daisy!" he called, gripping her gently but firmly. "Daisy, look at me." Her face was cold with sweat. Her lips looked pale. Her breathing was shallow, like her body had been fighting for too long without rest. Ethan's eyes tightened. "Bring the car," he said, voice sharp. "Now." Security cleared the way immediately, and within minutes, Daisy was out of the boutique. No longer a public spectacle, no longer a story for people to gossip about, just a tired young woman who had been carrying too much alone. When Daisy opened her eyes again, she didn't recognize where she was. The ceiling was clean and bright. The air smelled like fresh sheets and quiet money. Her body was on a soft bed that felt too comfortable, like she didn't deserve it. She tried to sit up quickly, but dizziness pushed her back down. "Easy," a calm voice said. Daisy turned her head weakly. Ethan was there, not in a suit this time. And he looked like someone who had been worried for hours and didn't even care how he looked anymore. A doctor stood nearby holding a small file. "You're awake," the doctor said gently. "That's good." Daisy's eyes widened in sudden fear as her hand went straight to her belly. "My baby," she whispered. The doctor nodded. "The baby is fine." Daisy released a shaky breath like her lungs had been holding that fear the whole day. "But you," the doctor continued, "you are not fine." Daisy blinked slowly. "You're weak from stress," the doctor said, "and from long-term malnutrition. Your body has been suffering quietly for a long time, and pregnancy has made it worse. You need proper food, rest, and peace." Daisy swallowed. The word malnutrition embarrassed her even though it shouldn't, as if being poor was something she needed to apologize for. The doctor finished his advice, then excused himself, promising to check on her again later. When the door closed, silence filled the room. Daisy stared at the blanket, then forced herself to sit up again. I should go," she said quickly. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Go where?" Daisy's throat tightened. "I'm okay now. I don't want to disturb you." "Disturb me," Ethan repeated like the word annoyed him. Daisy tried to swing her legs down, but her body still felt heavy. Ethan stepped closer, voice low, but firm. "Daisy, you fainted." Daisy looked away. It was just stress. "It was hunger too," Ethan said simply, "and fear and carrying everything alone." Daisy's eyes stung. She whispered, "I don't want to be a burden." Ethan's face changed slightly. Less anger, more something deeper. He sat down near her, not too close, but close enough to feel real. "You're not a burden," he said, "and you're not alone." Daisy's fingers trembled on the blanket. Ethan looked straight at her. "I know the baby is mine," he said calmly. Daisy froze. The room felt suddenly smaller. Ethan didn't rush his words. "I'm not pretending it didn't happen," he continued. "I'm not denying it, and I'm not running away." Daisy swallowed hard. "People will talk." "They already talked," Ethan replied. "And they will keep talking. But that won't change my responsibility." Daisy's voice was almost a whisper. "Is it responsibility or pity?" Ethan's eyes held hers. "I'm taking responsibility because it is my child and because I don't want you suffering again." Daisy didn't know what to say to that because a part of her had been preparing for rejection from the moment she saw the test strip. But Ethan was sitting here saying he would not run. She opened her mouth again, still trying to leave. "Ethan, I really—" The door suddenly opened, and Daisy heard excited voices before she even saw anyone. "Where is she? Is she awake? Let us see her." 3 women walked in like they owned the whole house, which in a way they did. They were all beautiful in different ways. But there was something else, too. Confidence. Warmth. The kind of confidence that came from being loved and protected all their lives. Ethan stood up immediately. "Nora," he said, warning in his tone. The first woman laughed softly. "Relax. I'm not here to fight her." She stepped forward. "I'm Nora," she said, smiling at Daisy, his eldest sister. The second woman moved closer too, eyes bright and curious. "I'm Zara," she said. "Second sister." And the third waved dramatically like Daisy was already family. "Mirror," she said. "The last born. The most important one. Don't argue." Daisy blinked, confused and suddenly shy. Ethan exhaled like he had already suffered their teasing before. Nora looked at Daisy's face with something close to relief. "We've heard a lot about you," she said gently. Daisy's heart skipped. About me? Zara nodded quickly. From our parents, Mirror added, and from Ethan too. Even when he pretends he doesn't talk, he talks. Ethan shot her a look. Mirror. Mira grinned. What? It's the truth. Daisy didn't know what to do with her hands. She looked at Ethan, then back at them. Nora's smile softened. So, yes, we already know the shocking excuse. Daisy's brows lifted slowly. Zara laughed. Those times you came with different girls. That was us. Mira clapped once. 3 sisters, 3 excuses. Very smart plan. Daisy stared, shocked. So all that gossip, all that talk of him being a playboy, it had been lies people created because they didn't know him. Nora stepped closer to the bed. We also heard what happened at the store, she said, her voice turning serious. And we're sorry you went through that. Zara nodded. Nobody deserves to be treated like that. Mira's face tightened. If we were there, that Gloria woman would have regretted her life. Ethan's voice came sharp. Enough! Nora held up her hands. Fine, no violence, but Daisy, you're safe here. Then Zara dropped a thick list on the bedside table, like it was normal. What's that? Daisy asked. Zara smiled proudly. Maternity care plan. Mira added another folder. Nutritionist. Nora placed another envelope gently. Honey, a nanny for when the baby comes. Mira lifted a bag. Massages, proper prenatal support. Anything your body needs, Zara added. And custom clothes. Pregnancy is not an excuse to stop looking good. Daisy stared at all of it like they were offering her another life. Her throat tightened again. I can't accept all this, she said quickly. I'm not used to people doing things for me like this. Nora's eyes softened. We can tell, Daisy swallowed. I'm traditional. I want to work. I want to earn what I have. Mira leaned forward, studying her. You're pregnant and still thinking of work. Daisy nodded. I don't want to be a burden on anybody. Zara smiled like she respected her more. Nora said quietly, Do you know what Ethan has done all these years? Daisy shook her head. Nora's voice became warm. He has never brought any woman into this house. Daisy's breath caught. Zara added softly. You're the first. Mira grinned. And the last. We can already see it in his eyes. Daisy looked away quickly, embarrassed, but her heart was beating too fast. Then Nora brought out a black card in her hand. She placed it on the table gently like it was nothing. This is for you, Nora said. No password. Use it when you need anything. Daisy's eyes widened in panic. No, she said quickly. No, please, I can't. Mira blinked. Why not? Daisy's voice trembled. Because if I take it, I'll feel like I'm being paid to exist. The sisters went quiet for a moment. Then Zara nodded slowly. That is actually a very strong thing to say. Nora's smile returned deeper now. Okay, she said. We won't force you. Mira sighed dramatically. You're making it difficult to spoil you. Daisy's lips pressed together. I'm sorry. Nora touched her shoulder gently. Don't apologize for having pride. Ethan watched everything quietly like he was seeing Daisy from a new angle again. Not as a salesgirl, not as a scandal, but as a woman fighting hard to keep her dignity. The next day, Daisy returned to work, not because she was stubborn, but because work was the only thing that had ever made her feel like she still had control of her life. The moment she walked into the boutique, some people went silent. Some stared, some looked away. The manager's eyes followed her like he wanted to swallow her whole. Not because she was wrong, because Ethan had defended her. And now everyone was afraid but also angry. Daisy went straight to her station, quietly, acting like she didn't hear the whispers. Then suddenly the manager called her. Daisy. She walked over calmly. He lifted a luxury bag in front of everyone. This bag was handed to a customer, he said coldly, without gloves. He pointed to the leather. 2 greasy fingerprints. Daisy leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. She knew that trick. She knew what it meant. The manager's voice rose. This bag is worth $450,000. Who will pay for this damage? The junior staff member stood behind, shaking, looking like a frightened child. Daisy's chest tightened. The manager turned to Daisy, eyes sharp with accusation. You train this apprentice, so you will take responsibility. Daisy's mouth went dry. Then he added with cruelty, or are you too important now because the CEO defended you? Daisy didn't respond. She just stood there because she had learned something in life. When people want to disgrace you, words won't save you. Only truth will. And she knew the truth. Someone was setting her up again. That same afternoon, Anita Iza walked toward her, smiling like a knife. So you're still here? Anita said. Daisy didn't answer. Anita stepped closer, voice low, but poisonous. Because the CEO defended you, you think you're better than everybody? Daisy kept quiet. Anita laughed softly. If your bastard is truly his child, you wouldn't be here. You would be living in luxury inside a mansion. Daisy's jaw tightened, but she still didn't talk. Anita lifted her chin. Let's settle it with work. She turned to the manager. Sales competition, Anita announced. 1 week, whoever loses leaves this store, the staff murmured. When the manager's eyes lit up like he liked the idea of watching Daisy suffer. Daisy looked at Anita and understood immediately. This is her plan. And Daisy finally spoke. Fine, she said simply. I accept. Anita's smile widened because she believed Daisy had just signed her own ending. But Daisy was thinking of something else. If I win, I'll prove it. If I lose, I'll still know who framed me. And she suspected one thing strongly. Those fake messages, that deleted surveillance, her phone being used. Anita, the trap came quickly. One morning, the store prepared for a special client, a celebrity brand ambassador named Jay Okoro. Staff were excited, nervous, running around. Anita moved like she was directing a stage play. When Jay arrived, the air changed. He walked in surrounded by assistants, dressed like a man who lived under cameras. And Anita accidentally positioned Daisy with a tray of coffee. Then she bumped her. Daisy stumbled. The cup tipped. Coffee spilled straight onto Jay's head and expensive outfit. A sharp gasp spread through the boutique. Anita's eyes widened in fake shock. The manager's mouth fell open. Daisy, someone shouted. You're finished. Daisy stood frozen, staring at the mess like her whole life had just collapsed again. Her hands trembled. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I didn't. But before anybody could attack her, Jay lifted his head slowly, and instead of anger, his eyes narrowed with recognition. He stared at Daisy, then his mouth opened slightly. Daisy, Daisy blinked. Sir, Jay stepped closer, ignoring his assistant's panic. Daisy Okafor, he said, voice full of disbelief. It's you. The whole store froze. Jay smiled, an actual genuine smile. You used to treat me like your kid brother, he said softly, when we were younger. Daisy's eyes widened as memory hit her. Jay, she whispered. Jay Uro. Jay nodded, almost laughing. Yes. Anita's face went stiff. The manager swallowed hard. Jay turned to everyone, voice calm but dangerous. She did not do it on purpose, he said firmly. Anita tried to jump in. But sir, she poured coffee on your head. Jay glanced at his ruined clothes and shrugged. It's nothing, he said. Even this outfit is not worth shouting over. Then he looked at Daisy again. How did you lose so much weight? He asked quietly, like the question was personal. Daisy's throat tightened. She didn't know how to answer. Jay exhaled slowly and then said loudly enough for everyone to hear. She's with me. Nobody touches her. The boutique went silent. Then Jay turned to Daisy and held out his phone. Let's exchange contact, he said. We won't lose each other again. Daisy hesitated, then nodded slowly. Jay looked at the manager. I want items worth $5 million, he said. Daisy will choose them. I trust her taste. Gasps filled the room. Anita's eyes almost popped. The manager's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Jay added, ship them to my team. And Daisy, keep in touch. Daisy's hands trembled as she nodded again. Thank you, she whispered. Jay smiled softly. Don't thank me. You're the one who used to protect me. And with that, he left, still smiling, while the whole store stood there like statues. As Daisy watched him go, she felt two things at once. Relief because she had survived another trap, and fear because Anita's jealousy was no longer small. It was burning, and Daisy could already see it in Anita's eyes. Anita forced a smile and whispered to herself, barely audible, "I'm still leading sales. You can't beat me." But her eyes promised something else. "This isn't over." The boutique stayed quiet for a long time after Joro left. Not quiet in a peaceful way. Quiet in the way people become when they are shocked and ashamed, but still proud to admit it. Daisy returned to her table and continued working like nothing happened, even though her hands were shaking inside. Anita stood at her own corner with a tight smile that did not reach her eyes. And the manager kept looking at Daisy the way a man looks at someone he no longer knows how to control. By evening, Daisy was tired in her bones. Her body was still weak from the fainting. Her mind was still heavy from everything that happened. And just when she was thinking of quietly leaving, Ethan walked in. Not as the CEO, not as the man who could silence a room with one sentence, but as the man who kept appearing in her life when she least expected it. He walked straight to her. "You're coming with me," he said. Daisy blinked. "Where?" "To eat," he replied. "Now." Daisy opened her mouth to refuse out of habit, but the look in Ethan's eyes told her he wasn't asking, so she followed him. The restaurant was not loud. It was calm, clean, and expensive in a way that made Daisy feel like she shouldn't sit too comfortably. The moment the food arrived, Daisy forgot where she was. She ate like someone who had been trained by hardship. Fast, quick bites. Eyes down, like the food might disappear if she slowed down. Ethan watched her for a moment, then quietly pushed another plate closer to her. "Slow down," he said. Daisy paused, embarrassed. She wiped her mouth with a napkin and tried to smile. "Sorry," she said softly. "It's a habit." Ethan didn't laugh. He didn't mock her. He just asked gently, "What kind of habit makes you eat like you're being chased?" Daisy stared at the food for a second, then her shoulders dropped. The truth came out the way it always did when a person was tired enough. "My house," she said quietly. "If you don't eat fast, you don't eat at all." Ethan's face hardened slightly. Daisy continued, voice low like she was afraid her own story might shame her. "I have 3 younger brothers and 1 sister," she said. "Quick, and my mother? My mother believes suffering is normal." Ethan's eyes stayed on her. Daisy swallowed. "I work, Ethan. I work too much. I do odd jobs. I do anything that gives me money. But there were times I still had nothing." Her fingers tightened around the spoon. "Sometimes my mother took the little money I made and used it to raise them," Daisy said. "Even when I begged her to leave me something small, she would say, 'You are the first daughter. You must carry the family.'" Ethan's jaw clenched. Daisy forced a small laugh that carried no joy. "You know what's funny?" she said. "There were days I only had enough money to buy expired food, and I still felt lucky." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Expired food?" Daisy nodded slowly. "In the supermarket, some things get thrown away. Bread, packaged food, and even vegetables in the market that people don't want. Those ones with soft parts. You cut the bad side, soak the rest in hot water, and you eat." She lifted her eyes to Ethan like she was daring him to judge her. But Ethan didn't look disgusted. He looked angry, not at her, at life. Daisy breathed out. "But it's different now," she said quickly, almost like she needed him to understand. "I can support myself now. I don't want you to feel obligated because of the baby." Ethan didn't answer immediately. He simply stood up when she wasn't looking, walked to the counter, and paid quietly. When Daisy asked for the bill, the waiter shook his head. "Madam, it has been settled," he said. And the manager said, "From now on, meals for you are on the house." Daisy froze. She turned to Ethan slowly. He sat back down like it was nothing. You don't have to do that," Daisy whispered. Ethan looked at her. "I'm not doing it to show off. I'm doing it because I don't want you hungry again." Daisy's throat tightened, but she forced herself to nod, because if she spoke too much, she might cry in front of him. That night, Daisy went back to her small room, the same cramped place that suddenly felt even smaller now that she had seen what peace could look like. She locked the door. She washed her face. She sat down and tried to breathe. But peace did not come, because some people had a way of smelling when a woman was alone. A knock came hard, impatient. Daisy's heart jumped. "Who is it?" she asked, already knowing. "It's me," a man's voice replied, lazy and confident. Stanley Musa. Daisy's stomach turned. Her landlord. I am a man who smiled too much and looked at her like she was a thing. What do you want? Daisy asked sharply. Stanley laughed. I just came to check on you. You have been acting like you don't live in my house. Daisy's hand tightened around her phone. Go away, she said. It's late. Another knock came heavier. Then the sound of the lock shaking. Daisy stood up fast. Stanley, she warned, voice trembling but strong. If you touch this door again, I will call the police. Stanley's tone changed. This is my house, he said. I can enter any time I like. Daisy's fear turned into anger. You will not enter, she said. Try it and you will regret it. The door pushed again. Daisy stepped back, grabbed the nearest thing she could hold, a small metal water flask, and held it like a weapon. When Stanley finally forced the door slightly open, Daisy moved without thinking. She hit his hand hard. Stanley cursed loudly and stumbled back. You're mad, he hissed. Daisy's whole body shook, but she lifted her phone. I'm calling the police now, she said. That was the only thing that made him hesitate. He spat a threat and walked away, still cursing. Daisy slammed the door shut and locked it again. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely type. But she called Ethan once, twice, 3 times. Then she remembered. Her phone had been on silent earlier. Her heart sank. Before she could even think properly, she heard a car screech outside. Footsteps, fast, heavy. Then Ethan's voice. Daisy. Daisy opened the door and Ethan was there, breathing hard like someone who ran through fear. His eyes searched her body immediately. Are you okay? He asked. Daisy nodded quickly. Trying to look strong. I'm fine, she said. I handled it. Ethan's face tightened. You handled it, he repeated. Daisy, you are pregnant. Daisy's mouth opened, but no words came. Ethan looked around the cramped corridor with disgust and anger. This place is not safer, he said. You're leaving here. Daisy shook her head instantly. No. Ethan's eyes flashed. No. Daisy stepped back slightly, gripping the door. Moving into a rich man's space is easy, she said quietly. But being chased out later is worse. Ethan stared at her. Daisy's voice softened, but the fear remained. I have not met your parents, she said. I know how rich families behave. They don't want their children marrying a girl like me. I'm already grateful your sisters accept me and the baby. I don't want to dream too far. Ethan's expression changed. My parents like you, he said firmly. Daisy gave a small, bitter smile. You say that because you feel sorry for me. Ethan stepped closer, voice low. I'm not lying, but Daisy shook her head again, stubborn with fear. Ethan exhaled slowly, then reached for his phone. Felix, he said the moment the call connected. Rent a safe filler tonight. Not tomorrow. Tonight. Put bodyguards there. Proper ones. I don't want excuses. He ended the call and looked at Daisy. If you won't move for yourself, he said, move for the child. Daisy's eyes filled and she looked away quickly. The next day, trouble followed Daisy again, because trouble always followed her. A client named Lucas Noru had been pushing himself around the store like he owned the air inside. He was not a good man, and he didn't hide it. When he saw Daisy, he smiled like someone who already planned what he wanted. Come, he said, acting friendly. Let's have a drink somewhere. We'll talk business. Daisy kept her voice polite. I'm sorry, sir. I don't drink. Lucas laughed like she insulted him. What kind of salesgirl doesn't drink? He asked loudly. Or do you look down on me? Daisy's eyes stayed calm, but her body tensed. I'm allergic, she said. Then she added quietly, I'm pregnant. Lucas scoffed. So, he said, you think pregnancy makes you special? He leaned closer, his voice dropping. You salesgirls think you can enter luxury and start forming pride? He hissed. You will do what I say. Daisy stepped back. Please, she said firmly. Don't talk to me like that. Lucas grabbed her wrist. Daisy stiffened, and before Daisy could even react, and another voice cut through the moment like a blade. Take your hand off her. Everyone turned. One of Ethan's sisters, Zara, stood there. She looked calm, but her calm was dangerous. Lucas released Daisy slowly, forcing a smile. Ah, madam, he said. We are just talking. Zara nodded once. Good. Since you like talking so much, Let's talk with drinks. Lucas blinked. What? Zara turned to the waiter like she owned the whole place. Bring 10 bottles, she said. The strongest one. Lucas laughed nervously. Madam, that's too much. Zara smiled faintly. Then don't disrespect salespeople. If you drink small, talk small. Today you will drink big. Lucas tried to stand up. Zara's voice dropped colder. My brother's company is your biggest client, she said. If you refuse to drink, your orders will be canceled. Everything this year, maybe next year too. Lucas froze. His face changed. He looked around, realizing he was trapped. Zara pushed a bottle toward him. Drink, she said. Lucas drank. One bottle, then another, then another. His eyes became watery. His shoulders slumped. By the time he begged, his pride was gone. Please, he whispered hoarsely. I'm sorry. I won't do it again. Zara leaned closer. You will never force a woman again, she said softly. Not in business, not in life. Lucas nodded quickly, broken. Zara stood up and turned to Daisy. Go home, she said, and don't ever think you are small. Daisy's lips trembled. Thank you, she whispered. Zara nodded once, then walked away like nothing happened. The sales competition week ended like a storm. On the final day, the manager gathered everyone. Anita stood with a confident smile, already tasting victory. Daisy stood quietly, holding herself like someone prepared for pain. The manager announced the numbers, and Daisy's heart dropped. Her sales had been reduced, not slightly, mysteriously, unfairly. Daisy's eyes widened. That's not possible, she said quietly. Anita laughed. It's possible. Maybe you're not as special as you think. Daisy turned to the manager. My big clients, Daisy began. The manager didn't even blink. Signed contracts count, he said coldly. That's the rule. Daisy's chest tightened as she realized what had happened. Her clients were real. Her work was real. But the system had been manipulated. Someone had logged her sales under Anita's name, and Daisy didn't need a prophet to tell her who. Anita leaned closer, smiling. Your big clients are finished, she whispered. Mine are coming. Minutes ticked down. Daisy was still barely ahead by a thin, painful margin. Anita kept watching the door, smiling, waiting. Then in the final seconds, when the manager was already reaching for the keys, closed the shop. A VIP arrived. A man stepped in. Tall, calm, powerful, holding a black card that didn't look like it belonged to the normal world. The entire store froze because it was Ethan. Anita's smile disappeared. The manager's hands began to shake. Ethan walked straight to Daisy. Need my help? He asked quietly. Daisy's pride fought her for 1 second. Then she remembered her baby. She remembered survival. She looked at him and nodded. Yes, she whispered. I need it. Ethan's eyes softened slightly. Then he turned to the staff. Package items worth 20 million, he said, voice steady. Gas burst out like explosions. Who won? Someone whispered, 20 million. The staff moved like robots. They calculated quickly. They packed. They printed receipts. They whispered about commission because everyone knew what that meant. Money that could change a life. A commission so massive it could silence even the loudest enemies. Anita's knees nearly gave way. She stared at the receipt like it was a death sentence. Her face tightened in rage and fear because she knew something now. Daisy wasn't alone anymore, and the game she started was turning against her. And this time, Ethan was not watching from a distance. He was standing right beside Daisy. The boutique was still buzzing from Ethan's 20 million narrow purchase. The receipt had become a small holy book. The staff kept staring at like if they looked long enough, the numbers would change. Daisy stood in the middle of the noise, quiet and stiff, like her body did not know whether to feel relieved or afraid. Anita sat on a chair near the counter, breathing like someone who had just lost a battle she never expected to lose. Ethan didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He simply looked around the store slowly, calmly, like a man taking mental notes of every face. Then he spoke. By tomorrow morning, he said, I want the investigation report ready, and I want every staff member present when it is announced. The manager's throat moved as he swallowed. Yes, sir. Ethan turned to Daisy. Go home, he said quietly, And rest. You've had enough. Daisy nodded, but her heart was still racing. Because in a place like that, truth didn't always win. Sometimes truth got buried. The next morning, the staff were lined up like schoolchildren. No jokes, no whispering, no chewing gum. Even the proud ones were standing straight. Ethan arrived with his tech team, men and women with laptops and hard drives, faces serious like people coming to court. Ethan didn't waste time. "Bring the results," he said. The head of the tech team stepped forward. "Sir," he began, "we retrieved the deleted surveillance footage." A loud breath moved through the room. The manager's face went pale instantly. The tech team connected a laptop to the screen, and the boutique watched. It was clear, too clear. They saw Anita, bold and confident, standing near the office desk after closing hours. They saw her logging into the system. They saw her moving Daisy's clients, shifting sales records, and saving the biggest deals under her own name. Then another clip played. And Ani Uma, one of the staff who always acted innocent, was seen in a corner using another phone, typing fast and smiling as if she was enjoying a movie. Another clip showed the two of them together, whispering, planning, and then another shocking clip. The office CCTV angles showed them deleting footage, not once, more than once to cover their tracks. The store went silent, the kind of silence that makes even breathing sound loud. Ethan's voice cut through it. "Anita Ez," he said. "Ani Both women froze. Anita's lips opened, but no sound came out. Annie's eyes darted around like she was searching for an exit. Ethan walked forward slowly. "You were behind the frame phone messages," he said. "You are behind the fake chat screenshots. You are behind the rumors. You are behind the lies that Daisy sleeps with men to sell items." Yeah, nobody moved. Ethan's eyes were cold. "Two grown women," he said, "with working brains. And this is what you used your life to do." Anita's voice finally came out weak. "Sir, I can explain." Ethan raised a hand and stopped her like she was noise. "No," he said. "You can't." His tone hardened. "You are stupid and malicious." That sentence landed like a slap. Some staff flinched. Anita's eyes filled with sudden tears of humiliation. Ethan pointed toward the door. "You are both fired immediately." The manager tried to speak. Ethan turned sharply. "And if I ever hear that anyone in this company is trying to destroy another person with lies again," he said, "I will not just fire you." He paused, letting his words sink. "I will involve the police." Annie started shaking. "Sir, please." Ethan didn't even look at her. He looked at the whole staff. "Now 1 month ago I said, 'No employee under my group will suffer injustice,'" he said. "I meant it." Then he turned to Daisy, standing quietly at the back like a person who still didn't believe good things could happen to her. "You're cleared completely," Ethan said. Daisy's chest rose and fell. She nodded slowly, and for the first time in a long time, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Safety. A few days later, Daisy went to the hospital for her prenatal checkup. Nothing fancy, just clean hospital smell, quiet nurses, and the steady reminder that her baby was real. The doctor checked her and smiled. "The baby's fine," the doctor said, "but you need to eat better and rest. No stress." Daisy nodded like she was hearing it, but her mind was already racing about Bill's work and survival. She walked out of the hospital, Sonny holding her file close to her chest. That was when she saw them, her mother, her siblings, waiting like they had been tracking her. Daisy stopped. Her younger brother stood behind her mother like backup singers. Her younger sister's eyes were sharp and impatient. Her mother stepped forward first, acting like she was not the same woman that watched her daughter get beaten in public. "Daisy," she said sweetly, "you didn't tell us you were coming to hospital." Daisy didn't answer. Her mother's eyes dropped to Daisy's small bag. "So," her mother continued, "how much did they collect?" Daisy blinked. That was the first thing. "Money?" Her mother's voice hardened. "We heard the billionaire is now following you," she said. "So why are you still looking like this? Where is our own share?" Daisy's throat tightened. Her younger brother spoke. "What, big sister, we need money," another one added quickly. "School fees." Her mother waved her hand. "And rent," she said. "And food. Don't forget, we are the ones you are coming from." Daisy's hands began to shake. Then something in her snapped. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet breaking. I have paid, Daisy said, voice low. They paused. Daisy lifted her head. I have paid for this family, she said clearly. Her mother frowned. What are you saying? Daisy's voice rose slightly, not shouting, but firm. I paid house rent. I paid for your needs. I paid for the car you used to move around and show off. I paid my brother's fees when I didn't even have my own peace. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't blink the tears away. And what did you people do, she asked. You treated me like an ATM machine, like I don't have a life, like I was born to suffer for everybody. Her mother's face twisted. So now that a rich man has entered your life, you want to grow wings? She shouted. Daisy laughed once, dry and painful. No, she said. I just want to breathe. One of her brothers tried to touch her hand. Daisy stepped back. Her mother's voice dropped into a dangerous tone. If you don't give us money, we will deal with that pregnancy, she said. We can remove it. Daisy's blood ran cold. Then a voice cut in from behind. Madam, stop there. They all turned. A woman stood nearby, mid-30s, smartly dressed, carrying a handbag and a file folder like someone who lived in offices and courtrooms. Her eyes were fearless. She looked at Daisy's mother the way a teacher looks at a stubborn student. A sister is not legally obligated to fund her brothers, the woman said loudly so people around could hear. Daisy's mother scoffed. Who are you? A concerned citizen, the woman replied, and someone who knows the law. She pointed at Daisy's mother. Forcing someone to abort against her will is a prison offense. She said, you can be arrested for that. Daisy's siblings began to shift uncomfortably. The mother's mouth opened, but the woman continued. Your daughter is an adult. She's not your bank. People around were already watching now. Daisy's mother's confidence dropped slightly. She hissed at Daisy. You will regret this. Then they walked away angry and embarrassed. Daisy stood there shaking. The brave woman turned to her gently. Are you okay? She asked. Daisy nodded, eyes shining. Thank you, Daisy whispered. And the woman squeezed her arm lightly and walked away. Daisy stood there for a moment, thinking of calling Ethan. Then she stopped herself. No, she couldn't. Not again. She didn't want to be seen as a burden. Later that week, Daisy stepped into the boutique and saw someone she didn't expect. That same poor village woman. The old woman from the day everything started. Daisy froze. The woman smiled warmly. My daughter, she said softly. It's you again. Daisy smiled back, surprised. Good afternoon, Ma. The woman looked around and lowered her voice like she was about to share a secret. I have a charity banquet coming up, she said, and I need a dress. Something elegant. Something that will make people respect the cause. Daisy nodded quickly. Yes, Ma, I will help you. As Daisy began showing her dress options, and the manager walked over suddenly with a tense face. He didn't greet. He didn't even pretend. Daisy, he said loudly, where is the watch? Daisy turned slowly. What watch, sir? The manager's voice rose. The high-end watch in the glass display, he said. It was here. Now it is not. And you were the last person near that counter. Daisy's heart sank. Not again. Before she could even speak, the old woman stepped forward. Stop it, she said sharply. The manager blinked in shock. Madam, do you know who you are talking to? The old woman snapped. This girl is not a thief. The manager tried to force confidence. Madam, this is store policy. The old woman's eyes narrowed. Policy? She repeated. Or wickedness? Daisy took a slow breath and spoke gently. Ma, she said, that watch is a global limited edition. The manager paused. Daisy continued calm and sure. It is not even available locally, she said. If it is missing, it didn't disappear. It was never meant to be here without special documentation. Check the serial number and import record. You will understand. The manager's mouth opened. Because Daisy was right, and deep down, he knew it. He cleared his throat, suddenly sweating. I am sorry, he said quickly. There must have been a misunderstanding. To soften his shame, he forced a smile. Madam, he told the old woman, we will give you a discount for the inconvenience. The old woman waved her hand like she didn't care. She turned to Daisy. You will attend the banquet, she said. Daisy blinked. Ma. The old woman smiled like a woman carrying plans in her purse. Yes, she said, I will invite you officially, and I want you there. Then she leaned closer and said almost playfully, I also want you to meet my son. Daisy's heart skipped. Son? Wait. The old woman didn't say nephew this time. She said, son. But Daisy was too shocked to correct her. The day of the charity banquet came. Daisy almost didn't go. She stood in front of her mirror for a long time, staring at the elegant dress she had chosen. Simple, classy, and beautiful in a way that made her look like someone from a different life. When she arrived at the banquet hall, the lights were bright and the air smelled expensive. People were dressed in rich fabric and soft perfume. Daisy stepped in carefully, trying not to look lost. Then Ethan saw her. He turned, and for the first time that night, his face changed completely. Surprise! Real surprise! Or like he hadn't expected her to actually come. Their eyes met and Daisy's breath caught. Before she could move, the old woman appeared beside her, glowing with pride. Good, the old woman said. You came. Then she raised her voice, slightly drawing attention. My daughter, she said warmly. Let me introduce you properly. Daisy swallowed. Everyone, the old woman continued, smiling. This is Daisy Ophir, the young woman I have been telling you about. Daisy stood still, confused. Then the old woman turned slightly. And Daisy, she said, meet my son. Ethan stepped forward and Daisy felt her world tilt because it was Ethan. Ethan Adami, and the old woman's smile widened. I am Mrs. Clara Adme, she said proudly, finally official. And this is my husband. Daisy's legs felt weak. So this was her, the villager woman. One of the ones she had treated with kindness. The one who wanted to matchmake her with a nephew. This was Ethan's mother. Ethan's eyes were fixed on Daisy, tense and helpless because he could already see what was coming. And it came. Clara turned to Ethan sharply. Ethan, she said, voice firm, break up with that gold digger you're following and marry Daisy. Ethan's face drained. Mom, he started. Clara frowned. What? Ethan breathed out. Mom, he said quietly. Daisy is that woman. The hall went silent. Clara's mouth opened. Then her eyes widened. Then she slapped her own chest lightly like a woman suddenly remembering every mistake she had made. Jesus, she whispered. Then she turned fully to Ethan, anger rising. Why didn't you bring her home, she demanded. Ethan didn't answer fast enough. Clara's voice rose higher. She's pregnant and you let her work, she snapped. You let people insult her. Ethan's sisters, Nora Zara and Mira, were already approaching, faces serious, and Ethan, seeing no escape, did the next thing. He took Daisy's hand gently. Then he faced the crowd. This is also the woman, Ethan announced, voice steady. Who is the genius designer I have been searching for? Murmurs erupted like rain. Ethan continued. I will sponsor her dream fully, he said. Not partially, fully. Daisy's eyes filled with tears. She could not even breathe properly because everything was happening too fast. And for the first time in her life, good news was coming without pain following it immediately. A few days later, Daisy received an invitation. The Addy Mansion. Her hands shook when she read it. When she arrived, and it felt like entering a world that didn't belong to her. Clara Ara and her husband welcomed her warmly, not like a stranger, like family. Clara Ara held Daisy's hands and spoke softly. My daughter, she said, take this card, not because you are helpless, but because every woman deserves security and self-worth. A kind woman who deserves all the best things in the world. Daisy tried to refuse. Clara Ara shook her head. Keep it, she insisted, for the baby too. Then Ethan's sisters brought news that made Daisy freeze again. Daisy, Nora said with a smile. We heard you want to open your own fashion boutique. Daisy swallowed. I've always dreamed of it, Zara grinned. Then dream bigger. Mira clapped her hands once. We will handle registration, she said. Branding, Nora added. Scouting and promotions, Zara said. And an influencer push. Mira finished, eyes shining. They all smiled like proud sisters. We're your angel investors, Zara declared. Daisy stared at them. Then her face crumpled. Tears spilled. Not from pain this time. From a strange, overwhelming joy. because for the first time in her life she felt it. Family love, the kind that didn't demand anything in return. Clara Ara pulled her into a hug. "Cry," she whispered. "You're safe here." And she cried like a woman who had carried too much for too long. Daisy's boutique opened like something people only saw in movies. From early morning, cars kept arriving. Not just random customers, VIPs, society women, business people, and even a few faces that staff at the old boutique used to gossip about like they were untouchable. Outside, a crowd gathered too. Fans, curious onlookers, people who simply wanted to see the girl everybody had been talking about. Nora, with her influencer energy, was moving like a general. She had posted the launch announcement everywhere, and it worked. Cameras, phones, smiles, people taking pictures like they were witnessing history. Zara and Mira were inside checking details, making sure every corner of the boutique looked perfect, making sure Daisy never had to lift a finger too much. And in the middle of it all, Daisy stood in a simple, elegant dress, her hand resting on her growing baby bump, eyes shining like someone still waiting for life to slap her again. But no slap came. Only love, only support, only warmth. Then Ethan arrived. Not loud, not showy. He walked straight to Daisy, took her hand gently, and looked at her like she was the only person in the room. "Like you did it," he said. Daisy's voice shook. "We did it," he smiled softly. "Yes, we did." Later that evening, after the ribbon had been cut and the cheers had settled, Ethan's sisters brought Daisy into the inner lounge area of the boutique. They dimmed the lights. Mira clapped her hands once, and the staff brought out a cake. A real cake, big, beautiful, and glowing with candles. Daisy froze. Nora smiled. "Today isn't just your boutique opening," Zara added. "It's your rebirth birthday." Daisy blinked fast. "My what?" Mira stepped closer. "The day you stopped surviving and started living." Then Ethan walked forward with a small box. He opened it and showed her a custom ring. Simple, elegant, but clearly made with intention, not just money. Daisy covered her mouth. Ethan's voice was low. "You've never been celebrated the way you deserve. Not once." "So, we're starting now." Daisy's knees almost gave way. "I've never had a birthday cake before," she whispered, embarrassed by the truth. Clara's eyes softened instantly. She pulled Daisy into a hug like a mother who had waited too long to hold her child. "My daughter," Clara said, "from today you are the princess of this family and nobody will ever make you feel small again." They sang for her. They made her cut the cake. They took pictures. And Daisy smiled so hard her cheeks ached because this kind of happiness used to feel illegal in her life. Then the door burst open and the air changed. Daisy's mother stormed in with her siblings behind her, shouting like they had come to claim property. "Everybody look at her," her mother yelled. "This is the girl that abandoned her own family." People turned, phones lifted, whispers started. Daisy stood still, cake knife still in her hand. Her mother pointed at her like Daisy was a criminal. "Her brother is in ICU, she screamed, "and she is here doing party." Daisy swallowed, her heart pounding. One of her brothers stepped forward. "If you have conscience, give us money." Her mother raised both hands dramatically. "We suffered for you. Now you're chopping rich man's money and forgetting us." The room was tense. Some guests looked uncomfortable. Some looked curious like they were ready for entertainment. But Daisy didn't bend. Not today. She took one slow step forward. "Stop lying," Daisy said, voice steady. Her mother's mouth opened. "What did you say?" Daisy lifted her chin. "My brother is not sick," she said. "He is in ICU because of gambling debts." Gasps. Daisy continued, eyes not leaving her mother. He borrowed money from loan sharks. They beat him when he couldn't pay. That is why he is there. Not sickness, not tragedy. It is consequences." Her mother's face twisted in anger. Daisy's sister hissed. "So you won't help your own blood?" Daisy's voice rose, not shouting, just firm. "I have helped you people all my life," she said, "and you still came to destroy me." Her mother stepped forward like she wanted to fight. Then she spat the real reason. "We want 10 million, she shouted. The entire room went quiet. 10 million. Just like that. Like Daisy's life was still a bank account to them. Daisy's chest rose and fell. Then Ethan stepped forward. and just his presence alone reduced the noise in the room. He looked at Daisy's mother calmly. "How much did you spend raising Daisy?" Ethan asked. Her mother blinked. "What kind of question is that?" And Ethan nodded slowly. "Answer it." She hesitated. Ethan didn't blink. Then he said, "I'll answer for you." He turned to Felix, his assistant. "Bring 50,000. Felix moved quickly. In seconds, the cash was placed in Ethan's hand. Daisy's mother's eyes widened, half insulted, half desperate. 50,000, she scoffed. "Is that supposed to be a joke?" Ethan's voice didn't change. "That 50,000, he said, is more than you ever spent raising Daisy." Her mother's face stiffened. Ethan stepped closer, eyes cold now. "From today," he said clearly, so everyone could hear, "I have bought Daisy's freedom." His words hit the room like thunder. "She has nothing to do with you anymore." Daisy's mother stumbled back slightly. Ethan continued, voice firm. "If you ever return to harass her again, you will not like the outcome. Potter, do you understand me?" They stood there shocked, exposed, humiliated. And for once they had no power, no fear to use, no shame weapon that could work. They left. Not proudly, not loudly. They left like people who had been stripped of their last control. And Daisy stood there shaking, but not broken. Clara Ara came behind her and held her shoulders gently. "It's okay," she whispered. "They won't touch you again." After that night, life became softer. Not perfect, but softer. Ethan started spending time with Daisy in small ways. Morning calls to check how she slept. Short visits just to see her smile. Quiet lunches where he made sure she ate slowly, like she didn't have to fight the world for food anymore. Sometimes they sat and talked for hours about her childhood, her dreams, her fears, and slowly Daisy started to laugh again. The kind of laugh that comes from safety. One evening after a long day, Ethan walked her to her room. They stood at the door close enough to feel each other's breath. Ethan's hand brushed her cheek. Daisy's eyes fluttered. Their faces moved closer. An almost kiss. Daisy's heart raced. Then she pulled back. Not because she didn't want him, but because fear still lived inside her, hiding like a stubborn wound. "Ethan," she whispered, voice trembling, "I need to ask you something." He paused, watching her carefully. "Ask." Daisy swallowed. "Do you love me, or are you just being responsible because of the baby?" Ethan didn't rush his answer. He took her hand and placed it on his chest. "Both," he said. Daisy blinked. "Yes," he continued. "I'm responsible. I won't pretend I'm not. That baby matters." Then his voice softened. "But Daisy, I also love you. I didn't expect it. I didn't plan it. But I love you." Daisy's eyes filled, but she still held her ground. "I need security," she said, "not sweet words." Ethan nodded like he understood completely. "What do you want?" he asked. Daisy breathed out. "Let's do our marriage papers now." Ethan stared at her for a moment, then he nodded once. "Okay," he said. "We'll do it." Daisy's shoulders dropped like a weight had finally been lifted. But Ethan's eyes held something else. Something hidden. A plan. The marriage papers were done quietly. No cameras, no crowd, just signatures, witnesses, and a woman finally feeling like she wasn't temporary in someone's life. Afterward, Ethan held her face gently. "We'll do the big wedding after the baby is born," he said. Daisy frowned. "Why after?" Ethan smiled. "Because I want it to be a surprise." And Daisy scoffed lightly through tears. "You and your surprises." Ethan leaned close. "You deserve them, but evil does not always rest." Anita, fired, exposed, and burning with bitterness, could not accept that Daisy had won. Not just the job, not just the truth, but love. One day during a small gathering, Anita tried to force her way close. Angry eyes, desperate hands, moving like someone who had decided, if I can't have peace, nobody will. But Ethan's security team had been watching. The moment she moved suspiciously, the scene locked down. People shouted, bodies shifted, and before Anita could do anything, she was grabbed, held, pinned, her face twisted in madness. "She doesn't deserve it," she screamed. "She doesn't deserve him." Ethan stepped forward, eyes like stone. She deserves every good thing she's receiving, he said. Then he turned to the guards. Call the police. Anita started crying instantly, switching into begging, but it was too late. She was arrested, and the entire circle heard what happened, because some people only understand boundaries when consequences arrive. Ethan faced everyone present. "Da is my wife," he declared. The room went still, and from today, he continued, "anyone who slanders her again is making an enemy of me." Nobody argued. Nobody tested it. They had seen enough. Weeks later, Ethan's sisters invited Daisy for what they called a small family dinner. Daisy suspected nothing. She entered the decorated hall and froze. Flowers and oar lights, soft music, a walkway lined with petals. Everyone she loved was there. Clariara, her husband Nora, Zara, Mira, close friends, staff, one and even Joro smiling from a corner like a proud brother. Daisy's hands flew to her mouth. "What is this?" she whispered. Then Ethan stepped out. He walked toward her slowly, dressed like a man who had waited his whole life for one moment. He knelt right there in front of everyone. Daisy's knees went weak. Ethan looked up at her, eyes warm. "You survived what should have destroyed you," he said. "You remained kind when life tried to make you bitter. You carried pain like a secret and still showed up to work with dignity." His voice dropped. "And I want the rest of my life to be my apology to you for every hardship you never deserved." Daisy's tears fell. Ethan opened a ring box, another ring grander, shining like a promise. "My love," he said, voiceful. "Will you marry me properly, publicly, proudly, one of the way you always deserved?" Daisy laughed through tears. "But I'm already your wife," she whispered. Ethan smiled. "Then let me ask again so the world can hear." Dias nodded. "Yes," she said, "I will." The room erupted. Clara wiped tears and smiled at her husband, both of them quietly amazed because what began as a simple test of character had led to something beautiful. The wedding was grand, not just in decoration, but in meaning. Daisy walked in glowing, her pregnant tummy visible, her head held high. Not like a girl begging for acceptance, like a woman who had finally found her home. Ethan stood waiting for her eyes full, and when he held her hands, Daisy realized something. After all the humiliation, the lies, the beatings, the fear, she was no longer afraid of love, because this love didn't treat her like a mistake. It treated her like a miracle. And as the celebration ended, the narrator's voice returned softly like a blessing. They were once like wild grass nobody cared about, growing desperately, never touched by sunlight. But fate can still be kind. As long as love and hope remain in the heart, the sun will always arrive as promised.